Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this service of remembrance celebrating the life of Alice Kidder. Welcome to those joining remotely, and welcome to all gathered here in the warm light of this sanctuary, a place that Alice called her spiritual home for more than 30 years. You may be seated. We gather today held in love by the bonds of our connections to Alice. And for those of us who shared Alice's faith, we gather also in the spirit of our ever-living God, whose love is stronger than death. Like Alice so often was, please be at home here. Feel comfortable, no matter your faith, no matter your lack of faith, no matter your background of race, age, station, gender, sexual orientation. Please feel welcome here. Open your hearts to whatever sadness or grief, to the beauty of stories told and songs sung and good words of hope that can drive away despair. Find comfort here in the smiles and tears of friends and strangers. Find consolation and courage in God's presence. Today, we remember and celebrate a life lived fully. As a beloved wife, and mother, and grandmother, as a faith-filled lover and fighter for countless causes of social and racial justice, together let's celebrate and honor the life of a dear friend, a true saint, a precious child of God. After the service, the family invites you to join them at a reception in Margaret Jewett Hall, right through those doors, where you can also find restrooms should you need them at any time. There will be refreshments and a slideshow and a special video, tribute to Alice, and a chance to further share our memories and love and loving support with Dave and the family. Please join us. And now, let us join together in a time of prayer and continued preparation. God, who holds us all in arms of love and compassion, though our hearts are heavy and our heads are bowed, we lift our eyes to you, source of grace, source of courage, source of strength and hope. Meet us here, God. Let your healing spirit come to us just as we are. Help us to be present for ourselves and for one another. Draw us together, God, and let us give deepest thanks with our whole hearts for the gift that was and is Alice's remarkable life and legacy. Amen. I would now like to invite several members of Alice's house church. And this house church began during COVID and has met weekly, and they have been reading the words we were about to hear in an online Zoom round every week for the last several years. Peggy, Chris, and Jim. Lindsay is unable to make it. She's sick.
I'm Peggy Stevens, and before we begin our psalm, I want to tell you a little bit more about the house church that's meant so much to all of us and to Dave and Alice. We, in 2020, right at the beginning of the year, one of the ministers here suggested we might want to start house churches, like the early Christians who didn't have churches, of course, but met in homes. And so, on whatever theme we wanted. So along with another First Church member, Dave McCann, who is a poet, I invited anyone to join in 4 in-person meetings where we would read and discuss poems that had a spiritual theme. So we met twice in person, and then it was lockdown. And so eventually we found our way to Zoom, like we all did, and we continued, and as Dan said, we have to this day. Since we were older people, all of us, we found ourselves a bit isolated. And so we would often check in. Most of us had check-ins like this. Oh, well, I couldn't meet with my grandchildren outside, and so I played outside in the snow. But Alice's check-ins were different. Hers tended to be, well, I made lots of phone calls this week trying to open a shelter because we really need another one in Cambridge. People are living on the street, they have no bathrooms and no water. And so I think I found a place where 75 people could live. I once said to Alice, I finally figured out her secret, that it was easier for town officials or whomever to give up than to take more of her phone calls. So at the end of every meeting, now over 4 years, we have taken turns, each reading a few verses from Psalm 139. Every once in a while, I would say, do we want to do a different psalm? And everyone would say no. So the very first meeting, I said, let's go in alphabetical order with Alice first. So for the last 4 years, just about every week, we have started Psalm 139 with Alice's lovely voice reading, O Lord, you have searched me and known me. In honor of Alice, Chris and Jim and I are going to join in reading Psalm 139.
Psalm 139, verses 1 through 18. O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from far away. You search out my path and my lying down, and are acquainted with all my ways. Even before a word is on my tongue, O Lord, you know it completely. You hem me in, behind and before, and lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is so high that I cannot attain it.
Where could I go from your spirit? Or where can I flee from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and settle at the farthest limits of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me fast. If I say, surely the darkness shall cover me, and the light around me become night, even the darkness is not dark to you. The night is as bright as the day, for darkness is as light to you.
For it was you who formed my inward parts. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works, that I know very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth. Your eyes beheld my unformed substance. In your book were written all the days that were formed for me, when none of them as yet existed. How weighty to me are your thoughts, O God. How vast is the sum of them. I try to count them, they are more than the sand. I come to the end. I am still with you. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my thoughts. See if there is any wicked way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting.
Good morning, church. Good morning. Good morning, Kidder's family. I know this is this guy, Paris Swindle, that finally shows up. I want to thank you, Dave, and the Kidder's family, in sharing Alice with us. Alice is and will be a major spirit in my family and the different communities that she worked in and worked out of. But you know, I wasn't really the only culprit that took Alice's time. Really, it was a beautiful woman, young woman in those days, Mary Murphy. Mary Murphy. Mary Murphy, 20 years ago, brought me into a meeting with, I called her Dr. Kidder. And every Wednesday, we would meet in a community in Boston called Grove Hall. And at that time, that community was going through a great deal of turbulence in all different areas. And we would have breakfast in the heart of Grove Hall. People would come in and they says, I know they were looking at Alice. Who is this lady? And then week after week, she reminds me of the movie Mission Impossible. She would give Alice, she would give Mary and I our assignment. And our assignment is to go out and help those that could not help themselves. And, you know, I don't know how we were going to do it, but we did it. Excuse me, Alice did it. Alice got us involved in so many types of projects. It's unbelievable. And, you know, as the pastor was saying, there's a video that will be a tribute to Alice Kidder from Solutions at Work. And when you see that video, then you'll know what I'm talking about. Alice would give us missions to go out and paint and renovate historical landmarks, working with the faith community. And there was one interesting project, it was the Freedom House. And that why that project was so interesting is because what Alice did. She brought us all together, volunteers, to renovate, paint a historical landmark. I said, right on, Alice. Where are we going to get the money? Don't worry about it. We'll get it somewhere. I said, okay. And then one early Saturday morning, it was amazing. We had representatives from the Jewish community, representatives from the Christian community, and we had representatives from the Muslim community. And I said to Alice, did you plan this? Did you actually plan this? And the next thing we knew, we were in the Boston Globe. The whole city took knowledge. That was one project. There was another project that was very important to Alice. It was dear to her heart. We were working with a group called the Veterans Community Development Corporation. And it consisted of a number of families from public housing, children, and Alice launched a program called Value Over Violence. And the number of children that came to that training was unbelievable. We talked about things of what they were going through. We talked about how the fear and no idea what life will bring to them in the next moment. There was another project that really gets me laughing a lot. There was a young lady, and I don't think she would mind me using her name. Her name was Linda Blake. Linda was a young lady, African-American woman. She had a construction company, a painting company. Okay. And she would come to our luncheon, and we would give her breakfast, and then we will send her on her way. And I says, Linda, where are you going? Where's your truck? He said, oh, no, I have to bring my supplies and my paint and everything on the bus. Alice looked at me, and I looked at Alice, and the next thing we know, Alice helped her from using the bus as transportation, but helping her jumpstart her company. Today, Linda Blake is the only minority female developing company in the city. Alice has touched so many lives. I cannot begin to share with you all of them. But I will say to you, we have lost a special person. This year was a very difficult year for myself and my wife. My mother passed away. My son passed away. Having a son to leave you in an early age is very devastating. And then, you know, I got news from Dave that Alice is gone. I said, what? What do you mean she's gone? She passed. I was in a state of shock. You know, it's one of those feelings that you're on the edge. This is it. This is it. I'm done. And then I thought of Alice. Many times I would call Alice up and I said, Alice, we got a meeting with so-and-so. She said, yeah, let's prepare the documents, X, Y, Z. But she's in dialysis. She's preparing for a meeting in dialysis. I said, Alice, she says, okay, well, why don't you type this up and I'll get it to you and we're good to go. Alice inspired me. At times she would say to me, suck it up. Suck it up, Paris. You're a visionary, but you gotta be tough. And I thank her for that. Her love, her personality is Christ-like. You can't get Alice riled up. She's very slow in getting angry. She has a great deal of patience. And she has a great deal of love. And as the pastor said earlier, it doesn't matter where you come from, what you look like. You have a friend in Alice Kidder. You know, I was just sitting in my living room the other day, and I said, what am I going to say? And basically about Alice. And it came to me, Alice, just talk from your heart. Say what you feel. I will miss Alice 20-some years. 20-some years that Alice has been involved in my life, and I've been involved in her life. So, Kidder family, Alice has represented you very well. Very well. And let me tell you, we had the city councilor in the city of Boston. His name was Charles Yancey, and he was so impressed with Alice. And Charles is a nice, mild-mannered person. And his mother passed away, but Charles came in to do a citation for Alice. And then he said, you know what, Alice? They're going to allow me to name this room after my mother. But you know what? It's going to be after you too, because my mother, her name is Alice. So in the Mattapan Library, there is a room there that is Alice. So thank you, Lord. Thank you for Alice. I know she's on the other side negotiating for me. I know she is. I know she is. And so I want to leave you with this. Don't be sad. Be happy. Be proud. You don't know. Alice Kidder, she was real, very real. And she is respected in this city greatly in other places. Ghana, Haiti, Mattapan, Dorchester. They know Alice Kidder. Thank you.
Good morning. To the Kidder family, I extend condolences and heartfelt gratitude, as Paris said. Because I'm also a preacher, I will read from notes so that I can be brief. This moment I'm given cannot begin to contain or express who Alice Kidder was and continues to be. She continues because she has left an enduring legacy to so many. When we opened by singing the song, "Let Jesus Christ Be Praised," my heart burst wide open. That cannot be, there could not be a more fitting refrain for Alice Kidder, because she indeed embodied the way of Jesus Christ. I first met Alice in 2015 when I came to First Church as a member. I'd started a journey at Harvard Divinity School, and in finding my place here, I went to Mission and Social Justice, and Alice was there. And eventually went to Building Beloved Community, and Alice and Dave were there. And Alice struck me because she was so excited, and she was so energetic and open to be helpful. And my focus specifically is broadly human rights, but racial justice in particular. And so racial justice emerged through the current movements in our community. But before I get to that, the most sacred place that I encountered Alice, and it's hard to say Alice and not Dave, Alice and Dave, but Alice, the most sacred place was when Alice opened widely and deeply their hearts to friendship and to communion, sharing meals at each other's homes. And I am Jamaican, And so I would bring oxtails and curry chicken, and we would sit at the table and eat, and she would say, this is so good. I have a sense that Alice, just like me, loves food. And beef patties and cola champagne, and she was just so curious and open. Her heart was wide open. And then I invited them to my home, and they met my mother and became endeared by my son, Lion. And it was actually at another occasion in Dave and Alice's home, after church when we visited to have lunch, that Lion discovered Legos. They had a container of Legos, and Lion was was five at the time, and he got lost in the Legos while we talked. And that love for Legos has emerged today into my little boy doing 10,000, 12,000, 20,000 pieces of Lego masterpieces. These few moments to express what Alice meant to our movement for racial justice, I will anchor there. I will lift up the BLM movement, the movement for Black Lives, the Ubuntu Women's Collective in Jamaica, the Haitian Apothecary. There is a community of women in Kenya that small loans are given to start farming projects to feed their families in their village. Alice's name, her spirit, her legacy extends to that. Her ministry was one of the way. Christianity reflects Jesus as the way. And that is why my heart burst wide open. Because the way she was open and curious, the way she was compassionate, the way that she cared and embodied hope. Alice's being is a testament of the South African Shona concept of Ubuntu. We know it because it was popularized, many of us anyway, encountered it because it was popularized by Bishop Desmond Tutu, meaning I am because you are. But as my South African Shona sister studies and shares with us, it means really deeply in Shona culture that we become people through our relationship with other people. We are reflected through their eyes, and they are reflected through ours. Alice held that kind of largesse. I would call her, with so many mutual aid projects, I will call her just to say hello. And she would say, "Hi, Carlene, what's going on?" And that was an open door to share what was happening in our personal lives, and how is Lion, and how is school, and she really sat and listened and cared about what was going on and what was happening. She seemed to have the gift to hold the sacred in the struggle, the sacred humanity and dignity of persons, and pardon my phone ringing, the dignity of persons in a way that we felt seen as equally sacred children of God. She held the pain of those marginalized who bear up under historical and systemic struggles. a comrade that held communal trauma in such a way that it activated Alice. One of the most sacred and memorable times, not one, but on a few occasions, is our time in prayer. Praying deeply for those who are impacted. Lately, I've been spending a lot of time in Jamaica. That's where my research is, that's where I'm from, and my family is there. And when I heard of Alice's passing, it hit deeply because while we did not speak as frequently, but we remained connected through movements and sharing information via email and projects with Paris. As I reflected about her life, I thought of my grandmother. When my grandfather passed away, one of her grandchildren said to her, "Grandma, they had been married for over 60 years, by the way. Grandma, will you find another husband?" And Grandma said in her thick Jamaican patois accent, "Man, God will have to make him all over again." I thought of Alice because to find such a spirit embodied in a being with such depth of love and care and curiosity, I can't say love enough. She had such grace. And coming into First Church, because Alice was such a pivotal and grounding anchor in this community, Alice and Dave, it is that legacy that I hold. We carry that into the world. And I am sure her children and grandchildren and all of the organizations and people and lives, but to find another Alice that squeezes and hugs and smiles, and her beauty resonates so brilliantly. That too is my retort. Man, to get another Alice, God would have to make her all over again. Alice Kidder, presente.
I'd like to thank you all for being here today to celebrate my mother's life. To say that my mother had a positive impact on the world would be an understatement. I imagine most of us here today have stories of how she impacted us personally, or someone we knew, or someone we got to know because of the kindness, big heart, and giving nature of my mother. I have many such memories, but I'm going to share just one, which influenced my worldview and is a good example of the kindness that my mother shared. When I was about to graduate college, my mother was teaching at Babson College in Wellesley. That winter, she discovered that her research assistant, a graduate student from South Africa named Makhlamola Mokoena, had no place to go during the Christmas break. Naturally, being the person that she was, she invited him to stay at our home for the duration of the break and to celebrate Christmas with us, his own stocking, Christmas gifts and all. We learned that he had left South Africa to pursue an American degree, leaving a pregnant wife named Linky and a young son named Tato at home. I remember him later excitedly and tearfully sharing with us the news after a phone call with his wife that he had a newborn daughter named Sohoputso. At this time, Makhlamola still had a couple of years left to complete his graduate degree. My mother, with the support of my father, decided it would be tragic for Makhlamola not to meet his newborn daughter until she was already walking and talking, with him being a stranger to his own child. So, how do we resolve this situation? The obvious answer would be to help Makhlamola travel back to South Africa to visit his family. Instead, my parents opted for the even more generous option of helping his family travel here and inviting them to live with us in our home in Berlin, Massachusetts, until Makhlamola finished his studies. After I graduated college, I moved back home to a rather full house to start my first full-time job. It was about a year before I moved out to start a new job in Denver, but during that time, I got to see Sohoputso take her first steps and say her first words. I got to see Tato board the bus to school for the first time and proudly show off his new Cub Scouts uniform. There were a number of parties at our house with the Mokoena's circle of South African friends. Parties to celebrate anything from the birth of a new child to graduations to friends getting engaged. I would occasionally come home from work to find large celebrations in full swing. During the festivities, my father would watch nervously as joyous guests jumped and danced in the small living room of our house that was over 200 years old, all the while praying that the floor wouldn't collapse. In May of 1990, just before I left for Denver, there was a big party to celebrate the end of apartheid. Now, my mother, to my knowledge, had never intentionally had a drink of alcohol in her life and generally didn't condone its consumption. I have heard an unconfirmed rumor that my mom may have had one unintentional encounter with some spiked punch during college, but who's to know? Anyway, my mom was intent on keeping the joy and elation alive, so I was absolutely stunned to hear my mother shout, "Dave, go buy another case of beer." They were interesting times, to say the least. During the Mokoena's time living with us, my mother felt it wasn't fair that Linky wasn't getting the educational opportunities that Makhlamola was. So my parents saw to it that Linky got to attend college as well. Linky earned a degree from Framingham State College, and Makhlamola completed his graduate degree at Babson College. The Mokoinas eventually returned to South Africa, where Linky became a school superintendent. Maklamola had a successful banking career. Sohoputso grew up to become an attorney. And Tato grew up to run a nonprofit organization that I would like to believe may have been, in part, due to the example set by my mother. This is one of countless examples of my mother's determination to help others and make a more equitable, kind, and just world. We all know the expression, it's better to give than to receive. My mother gave of herself in the true spirit of giving. She also often gave of my father, whether he liked it or not. But honestly, my parents were true partners in caring about others and gave freely of their time, resources, and energy. The world isn't yet what my mother fought for it to be. But there is no doubt that it is a better place because of the generous and kind-hearted person that she was.
So good to see you all here. Alice, for so many years, my sister-in-law, but truly my sister in the most important sense of that word. What an incredible life you had with a truly exceptional list of accomplishments for which you will be remembered and celebrated. I like to think of lives as being made up of strands of beads, each string representing a different aspect of our time here: family, career, spiritual life, and so many others. The beads are held together by the continuous thread of our existences, but the individual beads are separate incidents that stand out as being particularly memorable. Today, I want to share with you a few of such beads from the family strand of Alice's life. 1960, way back. My first reliable Alice recollection is partaking of the delicious chicken dinner that she and Dave cooked in one of the cottages at Swarthmore College for my folks and my high school self on a visit to the campus. 2 years later, I was a student there myself, joining her to raise money for good causes by selling popcorn outside the Friday night college movies, and working together in the neighboring city of Chester at an after-school program for kids whose overcrowded, underperforming schools were infamous. June 1963, Alice and Dave's wedding, with me and my sister Janet delighting in our roles as bridesmaids. That day, Alice's life was transformed. She had been the cherished only child of parents whose ordered universe was defined by the routines of the academy. After her marriage to Dave, she was thoroughly absorbed into the admittedly chaotic world of the four-sibling Kidder clan. She took to this like a proverbial duck to water and became an enthusiastic, indispensable, and beloved part of the family. Late summer 1966, Alice and Dave were living in the Indian city of Calcutta. Dave was there on a Fulbright Fellowship conducting research for his doctoral thesis, and Alice was quite pregnant with my niece, Deb. One day she came upon the site of a food distribution program in a Muslim neighborhood where many young kids hung out all day, not having a school to go to. Recognizing a clear need, Alice bought a kids' Urdu grammar book, borrowed a blackboard, and set it up in a corner of the bastille. She wrote one Urdu character on the board and got some adults to persuade the kids to come over to see what she was doing. The kids were mostly entertained at first, but they soon got excited about this unique activity. From that first day, Alice would study up each night and bring a new lesson the next day to what quickly became the Palm Avenue School. As her November due date drew near, some Peace Corps volunteers took over teaching the lessons, which were later moved into a local mosque. After she and Dave returned to the U.S. in 1967, I was still teaching in South Africa, and Alice sent me on a buying trip throughout the country, purchasing Indian crafts and shipping them back to Boston for her to sell to raise funds to continue the work of the school. Sound familiar? On their return to Boston in 1984, the Palm Avenue School was still thriving, with 85 pupils and 3 teachers, having been taken on by the West Bengal Women's League. Appropriately, Alice was celebrated with a Founder's Day salute, complete with multiple marigold garlands. 1969, Dave and Alice moved with toddlers Deb and Steve to the colonial-era farmhouse in Berlin, Massachusetts, where they lived for 22 years. It was a paradise for kids, and for their kids, and later for my 3, with a hay barn, and a tree house, and a creek, and a challenging terrain to explore, and an indoor boa constrictor, along with other native and non-native wildlife. For 11 years, Alice commuted almost every weekend from her teaching job at North Carolina A&T in Greensboro, often with the kids in tow when they were little. The years were marked with Thanksgiving and Easter family feasts, litters of newborn barn kittens in a bottom kitchen drawer, a flock of sheep that grew from 2 lambs that were bought at the PBS annual auction, and her folks' 50th wedding anniversary in the backyard. So many more beads from the times together at Spring Lake, at the family cabin in upstate New York, built by my parents in 1975 as their summer retreat from Florida. There, the ever-expanding Kidder family has congregated ever since, reveling in the opportunity to reconnect with each other. Alice loved the days full of swimming and boating and cheering on the next generation of competitors for the title of king or queen of the float. Blissful days were marked by the nonstop communal round of meals, which often started off with a blueberry pancake feast, followed by an alfresco lunch, lakeside or on the screen porch, and then a sumptuous dinner featuring pyramids of fresh corn on the cob, Dave's famous barbecues, and s'mores prepared over the grill. Alice reveled in evenings spent in lively discussion, reading, jigsaw puzzle making, or playing Oh Hell, Monopoly, or Quirkle, where she regularly cleaned our clocks with her expert play. Later, as her mobility lessened, there were fewer trips lakeside for her and more catching the action from the screen porch. But she was never less than an enthusiastic presence. Today, we celebrate the completion of the many-stranded necklace of Alice's life that now contains beads beyond counting. Each one of you represents a single bead in the continuous strand of contacts that she accumulated over the years of her tireless work for justice and compassion. However you knew Alice, as family, friend, co-worker, beneficiary of one of her many projects, or as a legend, it is her spirit that is the thread that today ties us all here together. With this in mind, I ask each of you to join hands with those sitting next to you, or to touch elbows if you feel more comfortable doing that. Let us acknowledge the community of souls as perhaps this community of souls as perhaps her greatest achievement. Let us feel the power of that spirit connecting each other to the other as we honor her presence in our lives, pledging to continue her work as she would have us do. I'm going to read a poem that feels very much like her voice speaking to us. Epitaph by Merritt Malloy. When I die, give what's left of me away to children and to old men that wait to die. And if you need to cry, cry for your brother walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give to me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known or loved. And if you cannot give me away, at least let me live in your eyes and not in your mind. You can love me most by letting hands touch hands, by letting bodies touch bodies, and by letting go of children that need to be free. Love doesn't die, people do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away. I'll see you at home in the earth. Thank you, Alice.
With all that she had going on, I don't know how Alice found time to come to Jazz 530, but she and Dave were often there. I remember vividly she would share stories of her having taught at Spelman College during the civil rights era back in the day. And so I just would like to offer in her memory a song that was probably one of the very first songs I ever played at Jazz 530 and was absolutely a Jazz 530 standard that she would have heard many times. Duke Ellington's Come Sunday.
Purity of heart. One thing. That's Kierkegaard. And as I'm surprised, as you may be, to start this reflection there. I haven't read Kierkegaard in years, yet this title of his has kept returning to me as I've thought of Alice. As much or more than anyone I've known, Alice had a pure heart. A pure heart for love and justice, which were one and the same thing for her. It was undivided, which is somewhat surprising given the vast breadth and depth over which Alice somehow seamlessly divided her time. A better place to start might be to say that the purity of heart is to will as many things as possible for good. For consider how many things, how many righteous causes, how many social and racial justice projects we've heard about today, how many people, family, friends, neighbors, strangers, near and far, that Alice was willfully, powerfully, lovingly committed to. It's mind-boggling, and I imagine Dave sitting here telling us you don't know the half of it. Kierkegaard was merely reflecting what Jesus said in the Beatitudes. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. And I'm guessing this is part of how Alice remained so single-mindedly, so pure-heartedly focused on doing good in the world. She surely saw God in every person. Indeed, all creation. I don't think I ever encountered Alice as internally conflicted or divided or torn. She rarely needed time to think when she encountered a need or request or when she was making an ask of someone else. Her pure heart didn't have room or time for fear or hesitation. I think this is part of what made Alice pretty much an automatic yes for virtually any cause, any chance to put her faith in action and make God's love and justice real for others. Dave tells me Alice sometimes said no. I trust him, of course, though I never heard it, and I'm quite sure that when she did say no, it was still heard as a yes, for at least it was a yes to seeing God in whatever or whoever was before her. Ask Alice to support something for people experiencing poverty or for the least of these. It was a no-brainer because she responded with her pure, whole, and full heart, which was never divided. She was brilliant, of course, but I sense that she never had to think about what was the right thing to do. She just knew the choice was always clear. Choose to do good. Choose what is good in response to any need, or for that matter, choose what is good in response to whatever answer she might receive when inviting others to join her. Show of hands. Did Alice ever ask you directly to join her in doing good? I thought so. Whether over email or by sharing an invite to an event, an after-hours call, or in person. And did you say yes? Did you ever say yes to Alice sometimes just because you knew it was Alice and you trusted her heart? I thought so. Now, I want you to be really honest here. Did you ever have to say no to Alice? Come on. Who said no to Alice? It only goes to show how many times she asked. Still, consider her rate of return. And whether it was a yes or no, she understood it and she accepted it with grace and kept on moving forward, on to the next call, on to the next cause. There was something beautifully relentless about Alice, She was an unstoppable force for good in the world, and I've had an image going through my mind this week of a steamroller with Alice perched atop. For who can stop a steamroller? And from her vantage point in the driver's seat, maybe 10 feet above contradiction, I imagine her seeing above and beyond whatever traffic of distraction or drama or temporary obstacles might be in the way of her stunning capacity to see God and our birthright dignity in everyone. I think of her patient yet humble, deliberate pace, and the fiercely resolute and unswerving direction. And I'm reminded of the prophet Isaiah, who, like Alice, shared God's comfort and tenderness with the world. And Isaiah 40 says, "Prepare the way of the Lord, make straight in the desert a highway for our God. Every valley shall be lifted up, every mountain will be made low, the uneven ground shall become level, and the rough places a plain. Then the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together." Like a steady moving steamroller for love and justice, Alice worked tirelessly and assuredly to level the ground of racial and economic disparity and to make rough places smooth. Undaunted and seemingly never overwhelmed, she lived her life steering a course in kindness and love, not just for those that she knew and loved, not just in mere acts of charity. Alice worked to make ready a divine and lasting infrastructure, clearing paths of opportunity for others, building bridges and entire networks of compassion, literally building shelters of safety and warmth for all kinds of people. Her legacy will be as lasting as any bricks. It is one with the very mortar of this and so many other communities and families of love and faith, most poignantly her own family, which she so dearly cherished. And with all of that, an endearing and ever-loving smile that we see on the cover of our bulletins. I was privileged to see Alice and Dave and Steve and Deb the day before she died for a tender goodbye visit. But the last time I heard Alice speak was the week before, after she had bounced back yet again. She was at Mount Auburn. I went in, she was in her room alone, and she said she was waiting for some cream of wheat. We caught up and talked about our shared hopes for the GBIO housing justice campaign and shared hopes for the reparations fund and more. I didn't know it would be my last chance to hear her voice, though I'm not sure even knowing that would have changed the subject of our conversation. When I noticed that her breakfast tray had been delivered and that her arms were bandaged and sore, I offered to help feed her. She said, "Yes, please." So we sat together in silence, one spoonful at a time. She was in a bit of discomfort, but her spirit was content. Her heart was pure. I thanked her and made a gentle joke about the rare privilege I felt in being able to do something for her, knowing how she was always doing things for others. I wasn't joking. I will cherish that memory. Before I left, we prayed together for her family, for her caregivers, and of course, for peace and justice in the world. The psalmist wrote, "O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You search out my path and my lying down and are acquainted with all my ways." Alice knew in her bones that God searched and saw her. And in turn, dear Alice, pure of heart, spent her days searching and seeing God in others and saying yes. And for all the thousands of yeses that Alice said in her life, seeing God in others, she now sees God face to face, one pure heart to another. And she now hears God saying yes to her. Yes, Alice, yes. 10,000 times, yes, yes, well done, good and faithful one. Yes, Alice, blessed are you. Blessed is your pure and beautiful heart. Yes, I welcome and embrace and surround and enfold you in love and justice and joy eternal. Amen. You may be seated. Thank you, Carolyn. Thank you, Peter. Let us pray. Loving God of peace like a river, of justice and joy that springs like a fountain, God of life and God of death, thank you. Thank you for Alice. Thank you for the anchor of faith in the ocean of love that she was and will continue to be for us and for this world. And we thank you too, God, for your Spirit, which sustains and assures us through that time. Make that Spirit known through the kindness of family and friends, as we've already felt in the remembrances and songs that we've heard. Fill us with the assurance that Alice's life is now one with your peace, your wholeness, and free of all manner of struggle. By your grace, may she awaken all the more into your light, and into the life of justice and peace that our world cannot give. Grant us the assurance that she now stands as part of that great cloud of witnesses, that communion of all of your saints in every time and place. In faith, we know that she is now in your presence, God, that she knows fully your love, freely given without condition, trusting in your abiding love and believing that you will grant her eternal life. We commend her to you now and entrust her to your eternal care and love. When we feel the ache of the empty space where she was with nothing to fill it, because nothing and no one can take her place, we ask you, God, give all who are here your strength in their sorrow, your presence in the absence they feel, your hope that in death we are not divided. Be an especially close companion to her partner every step of the way, Dave, to Deborah and Robert, Nigel and Aiden, to Stephen and Lisa, Talia and Zero, to Lucinda, to all her family. Be close and gentle as well to those in the wider community around the world, even who knew Alice as chosen family, who called her Mama Alice, who lived with her for weeks, months, years, with Dave and Alice when they had no place else to sleep. Help Dave and close caregivers know they loved her and cared for her throughout her health struggles so very well. God, let her life continue to live on in our hearts and yours, in a light and fullness beyond our deepest imagination. All these things we ask in your name, which is love. And now let us pray the prayer that Rabbi Jesus taught us. Our Creator, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Good afternoon. I'm going to be reading On the Death of the Beloved by John O'Donohue from his book called To Bless the Space Between Us. Though we need to weep your loss, you dwell in that safe place in our hearts where no storm or night or pain can reach you. Your love was like the dawn, brightening over our lives, awakening beneath the dark, a further adventure of color. The sound of your voice found for us a new music that brightened everything. Whatever you unfolded in your gaze quickened in the joy of its being. You placed smiles like flowers on the altar of the heart. Your mind always sparkled with wonder at things. Though your days here were brief, your spirit was alive, awake, complete. We look toward each other, no longer from the distance of our names. Now you dwell inside the rhythm of breath, as close to us as we are to ourselves. Though we cannot see you with outward eyes, we know our soul's gaze is upon your face, smiling back at us from within everything to which we bring our best refinement. Let us not look for you only in memory, where we would grow lonely without you. You would want to find us in your presence, beside us when beauty brightens, when kindness glows, and music echoes eternal tones. When orchids brighten the earth, darkest winter has turned to spring. May this dark grief flower with hope in every heart that loves you. May you continue to inspire us, to enter each day with a generous heart, to serve the call of courage and love until we see your beautiful face again in that land where there is no more separation, where all tears will be wiped from our mind and where we will never lose you again. I want to add my thanks to Steve's. It's so good to see you all. You are the community of Alice's, a bigger community of Alice. This little light of mine I think of as Alice's mission statement for life. It's also our last hymn. So let's sing it in a spirit of celebration. Let's sing it loud. Let's sing it proud. Let's sing it for Alice.
For you, Alice. Siblings, let us go now from this place, bearing with us some measure of Alice's enduring spirit, her love for her family, her gentle yet fierce spirit, her relentless passion for justice and joy for every person. May the love we shared with her in this life abide through death. May God bless you and keep you in grace, courage, and peace today and in all the days ahead. Amen, and please join us in letting your light continue to shine in Margaret Jewett Hall, right through the doors. Let's keep the celebration going. Amen.
really solid. You know, my friend thinking that they're like clogs, and I was a little skeptical. Turns out they're really stable. Like they're really wide and they're like super stable. And I had my clogs until my big toe fell. I had them forever, but the company went out of business. But then the employees bought the company. It took them a little while, but the employees had like a huge fundraiser, and they bought the company in the mid-90s, and they started it, but really slowly, and now they have a web presence again, and they're like coming back, and they were $100. That's not bad. But they're super comfortable. I love them. I'm so glad to have them back. I'm still skeptical because nobody around here wears clogs, but I love them. They were on my doorstep this morning. I ordered them like 2 weeks ago. I was like, oh, I got my clogs. I'm totally wear them to work. In the kitchen. That's the only place people wear them. They're super comfy. They're really stable. So, the concert tonight, I don't know if we're going to do that. You know what? Kristen called me home last night at 8 o'clock. I'm just going to call her at home and pay back the debt, right? I'll find out. I'll get more information. But I think that, I don't know. I don't remember what they need in there. She didn't put it on the sheet. Oh, this is the only thing. I need 2 pieces of everything. Yeah. Hot water. But the 1 piece of hot water is hot. I left it in the kitchen. That top is a broken top. It's warm, but it's hot stuff in the back. You know what I'm talking about? Oh my God, I had no idea there was a broken. that story? Okay, so it'll be the 70 as the Francis shares in the end. Okay, cool. Alrighty. Well, they're just gonna, I guess they're just gonna have to have the backup. I mean, this is gonna work. I mean, that's totally.
can you explain to me anything about Solutions at Work?
Yes, I'm Alice Kidder. I'm co-director with Paris Swindle of Solutions at Work. Solutions at Work is working to get people out of homelessness by providing them with resources and training. We are so grateful to our donors because we depend upon them for continuing the work we do with unhoused people.
Welcome to Solutions at Work, where every act of kindness has a ripple effect and every hand extended brings hope to those in need. Founded by the resilient and compassionate Alice, this organization embodies her unwavering commitment to serving others and creating a community where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. At Solutions at Work, we understand that addressing the needs of our neighbors requires more than just good intentions, it requires action. That's why we offer a comprehensive range of services, from job training and housing support to financial literacy workshops and material aid distribution. Our job training programs empower individuals with the skills and confidence they need to build a better future for themselves and their families. Our housing support services provide a lifeline to those facing homelessness, offering a path to stability and self-sufficiency. But our commitment goes beyond just meeting immediate needs. Throughout the year, we organize food drives, clothing donations, and toy drives to ensure that no one in our community is left behind. But Solutions at Work is more than just an organization, it's a testament to the enduring legacy of Alice. Her tireless dedication to serving others and her unwavering belief in the power of community continue to inspire us all. Although Alice is no longer with us, her spirit lives on in the work we do every day. It's up to us to carry forward her mission, to honor her memory, and to continue fighting for a more just and equitable society. So let's roll up our sleeves and get to work. Let's stand together in solidarity, knowing that each act of kindness brings us one step closer to realizing Alice's vision of a brighter, more compassionate world. Join us on this journey of compassion and change. Together, we can build a legacy worthy of Alice's spirit, one that uplifts and empowers every individual in our community. Solutions at Work. Continuing the legacy of compassion, one person at a time.
It's more like she's getting you prepped for when you do get an apartment. When you do, like it's a home. Yeah. The way she makes you feel is like warm. You know what I mean? I can't understand how other shelters aren't like that.
That you never know where you're going to end up in life, and I'm grateful that I ended up here for my situation. Sure. It's been a wonderful experience. I don't want to leave, but no.
My name is Jim Brown, and I am a former member of First Church Cambridge. I went to work with Alice Kidder at Solutions at Work about a year after I stopped working for the state of Massachusetts at the Department of Environmental Protection. That was around 2019. It's likely we made contact somehow through First Church Cambridge, where we both sat on the mission committee. That original Office of Solutions I remember well. It was a remarkable operation, providing unique and tremendous resources for everyday items such as clothes and housewares for low-income families in the community. It was clear that Alice thrived on this activity. It was the object of her devotion to the cause and to her God, and it was part of her being. Let it be said as well that she carried on a long and successful campaign to accommodate her own health issues. Now that it's come time for her to pass on, I am sure her legacy will endure And I am very grateful to have known Alice Kidder and have been a part of her sacred and precious creation. Thank you.
Alice, when I heard that you were no longer with us, I was devastated. When I joined about 3 years ago as a volunteer at Solutions at Work, I was expecting to only learn some professional development skills. Instead, you also imparted a lot of lessons that you had learned over the course of a lifetime spent dedicating yourself to improving the lives of others, not only in Boston, but also those around the world. And this itself is an inspiring effort that I am sure that will continue to spearhead new causes, and we will continue to impart your lessons as they endure as we continue our work. And I wanted to say thank you for all the efforts that you have done.
Good morning, everyone. We are here today to honor and celebrate the life of Mrs. Alice Kidder, our dear friend and mentor who passed away. Mrs. Alice was loved, admired, and adored by the Solution at Work staff members. She was humble and had a sweet voice when talking to us. At the organization, she treated everyone equally. Mrs. Alice knew how to handle disagreement tactfully and orderly among staff members that could scale it when problem arose. Above all, she was an eminent advocate for the cause of social justice. In short, we are saddened by the passing of Mrs. Alice, which will create a vacuum at Solution at Work. However, I assure you that co-directors will follow through with her good deeds, so her legacy will continue.
I am deeply saddened by the loss of Alice. Pure and sincere soul she was. Generous to fault, giving more than expected. She touched the lives of many people with her kindness and her compassion. I am sure she's an angel flying above us right now. Her loved ones and her community will deeply miss her. Godspeed, Alice. Godspeed.
Hello and good afternoon, everyone. I just want to let you know how sad I am for the loss of Alice Kidder. She was a legacy, an institution among herself, and her main goal is to help those less fortunate and underrepresented in the society. I've only known her for a few years, but the years that I've spent working with her, it just made my heart feel wonderful knowing that there are still a lot of people left out there that think more of others than they do of themselves. You know, my heart goes out to the Kidder family, Kidder/Wolf family, all the friends and families within Solutions at Work and outside of Solutions at Work. My goal is to help continue her legacy. We have many great plans inspired by Alice.
My name is Richard Phipps. I have the privilege of meeting and working with Alice more than 15 years ago and have continued to do so since then. Alice Kidder was an amazing woman. She was an inspiration in many ways, a source of strength and encouragement. The introduction came with Mr. Lewis and Mr. Swindle as we were working on a program for youth in the greater Boston, Cambridge area. And I've met many an individual. However, Alice was one of the most unique people I've had the distinct privilege and opportunity to work with. Her caring, her support for causes that she held near and dear, the impact on humanity in the area that she served and we continue to serve will be felt for years to come and will impact the lives of many individuals, some who have never even had the privilege of getting to know her.
Hi, this is Jane, aka Princess. Alice and I worked at Solution at Work. That's how I met Alice about 8-9 years ago. Alice has always been the same person. She hasn't changed. And I love her for that because she only do things, but she did it from her heart. And that's what I love about her. But I'm going to miss her tremendously, but I know God has other plans for her. May God bless you all and have a good day. Peace. Rest in peace, Alice.
Hello, my name is Anna Shine, and in 1990 I founded the New England School of English in Harvard Square. Students come to the United States, to Harvard Square specifically, to study with us and to stay in our housing, and that includes our dormitories. I first met Alice when COVID struck all of us, and during that time, Nessie, we were closed for 17 months and all our dorms were empty. And I got a phone call one day, and I can remember the exact moment and where I was sitting. And someone called and asked to speak to Dr. Shine and was interested in making actually this dorm, which became the Green Street Shelter, into a shelter. And from the person could have sent an email saying, hey, hey, Anna, which is what, almost everyone does these days. But from the very first moment of my first interaction with Alice, she called me Dr. Shine. I don't have a PhD, but what she did, and it's just so Alice to do this, is she was polite, she was sensitive, she was culturally and generationally aware. And so, in fact, she was just perfect. And from that first perfect moment, my interactions with her only improved. Okay, so behind me now, you will see the essence of what the New England School of English is. A belief that all of us are a part of one human race, united by what we have in common instead of being divided by what we don't. And I'm recording this video in front of this. Here we say we believe in the power of kindness, because it's not only the essence of the school, but it was the essence of this perfect Alice. Alice who saw just one people, and it was those who needed her help. I used to receive frequent calls from her, and I used to love them because I loved the sound of her voice. And those who know her know what I mean by that. And on almost every call, she would have, Anna, I have a new idea that I think we could do something, something for the community. Always, 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 she was thinking about those in need. And her passing is a terrible loss for everyone, those who knew her, and of course, actually, those who didn't, but whose lives were improved because what Alice tirelessly chose to do. My heart goes out to all who had the privilege of knowing and loving her, and I am grateful that I am fortunate enough to have been one of them. Thank you.
I was really sad to hear of Alice's passing. I remember I used to always say I want to be like Alice when I grow up. And I still want to be like Alice when I grow up. But one thing about Alice that I sort of recognized as being sort of really, really special is Alice lived in a way that showed the fruits of the Holy Spirit. And so I just want to read that Bible verse in Galatians 5:22 and 23. But the fruits of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things there is no law. And if you knew Alice and you had dealt with Alice and worked with her in any way, I think that you would agree with me that all those things sort of resonate. At least they resonate for me in the way sort of I saw Alice. So I want to offer this tribute to Alice today. Tell me what open hand.